Chapman, could an airplane melt that much ice?
One of our own jets generates enough heat to warm a 50-story office building.
It's part of an airfoil, probably a stabilizer of some sort.
It's an airplane, all right. Voorhees, can you tell what metal that is?
I'll need some tools.
Barnes, bring some tools!
Hey, it's down pretty deep over here. I can't see anything but a dark mass. It's deeper over here.
Captain, may I suggest that we spread out and try to determine the size and shape?
Right. Spread out, everybody. We're going to try to figure out the shape of this thing. Here's the tools, sir.
Holy cats. Hey.
It's almost...
Yeah. Almost a perfect...
It is. It's round.
We finally got one.
We found a flying saucer.
Can anybody see anything through the ice from where you are?
Only an outline.
Nothing but a dark shape. There, it seems perfectly smooth. No doors or windows. I can't see any engine.
I doubt if we find anything we call an engine.
Dr. Carrington, this isn't any metal I know. Probably some new alloy.
Get some filings for analysis.
Right.
Captain, I don't think we have a chance of chopping through the ice with axes.
I know, Doctor. We think so, too. We're going to try to melt it out with thermite bombs.
Oh, excellent.
Doctor, where do you figure it's from?
I don't know, Mr. Scott.
Well, from this planet?
I doubt it.
Well, then do you think that
The answers to your questions will be much easier after we've examined the interior of the aircraft. Its occupants, if there are any.
occupants? Why, never. What a story. Where's that Hey, Barnes!
Hold it, Scott. Sorry, no private messages.
What do you mean private? I'm going to send it to the whole
I
world.
wish you could, but this is Air Force information. We'll have to wait for authority to let you file a story.
Why, you've got your authority in the Constitution of the United States. For your information, it's called freedom of the press, and I'm sending a story,
Not from our
Captain.
ship, Scotty.
Where do you want these bombs, sir?
One over there by the
Look, Pat.
stabilizer, another one over on the far side in case we need it.
Pat, this is the biggest story since the parting of the Red Sea. You can't cover it up. Think what it means to the
I'm not
world.
working for the world, Scott. I'm working for the Air Force.
Look, Sonny, if you
No,
think I'm
Scott.
going to...
I'll take that.
Here's a
Oh,
detonator.
even the Russians
When
wouldn't
I
think
get
like
back
that.
to the ship and call the camp. Half-text radio Fogarty, we found a flying saucer, disc, whatever you call it, intact, embedded in the ice. We're going to try to get it out.
What about
also
me?
ask if Scott can have clearance to send a story.
Yes, sir.
That's all I can do.
Though his own knowledge of his disappearance and whereabouts is vague and inconclusive. Special Agent Mulder's insistence that Buddha Haas may have been a test pilot on a top-secret project involving aircraft using recovered UFO technology and may have suffered severe stress-related trauma by flying these aircraft is also inconclusive.
Your lives may be in danger.
Why?
You've seen things that weren't to be seen. Care and discretion are now imperative.
I saw something.
As I said, I can provide you with information, but only so long as it's in my best interest to do so.
What is your interest?
The truth.
I did see something. But it's gone. They took it from me. They erased it. You have to tell me what it was.
A military UFO? Mr. Mulder, Why are those like yourself who believe in the existence of extraterrestrial life on this Earth not dissuaded by all the evidence to the contrary?
Because all the evidence to the contrary is not entirely dissuasive.
Precisely.
They're here, aren't they?
Mr. Mulder, they've been here for a long, long time.
Let's see what cargo we have. The animals went in 2 by 2.
What do you mean by that?
Noah's Ark. This operation.
Converging.
Control rockets?
Yes, we're slowing down now.
What's that?
There's no image on the radar scanner. An entire city in space. And still nothing on the radar scanner.
So nobody on Earth knows it's there.
Right. Drax must have a radar jamming system.
All Moonrakers prepare to initiate docking procedures and continue radio silence.
On your discovery, which may well prove to be among the most significant in the history of science. Now, I know there have been some conflicting views held by some of you regarding the need for complete security in this matter. More specifically, your opposition to the cover story, created to give the impression there's an epidemic at the base. I understand that beyond it being a matter of principle, many of you are troubled by the concern and anxiety this story of an epidemic might cause to your relatives and friends on Earth. Well, I completely sympathize with your negative views. I found this cover story personally embarrassing myself. However, I accept the need for absolute secrecy in this, and I hope you will too. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of the extremely grave potential for cultural shock and social disorientation contained in this present situation, if the facts were prematurely and suddenly made public without adequate preparation and conditioning. Anyway, this is the view of the Council. The purpose of my visit here is to gather additional facts and opinions on the situation, and to prepare a report to the Council, recommending when and how the news should eventually be announced.
Well, when we first found it, we thought it might be an outcrop of magnetic rock, but all the geological evidence was against it. And not even a big nickel iron meteorite could produce a field as intense as this. So we decided to have a look.
We thought it might be the upper part of some buried structure, so we excavated out on all sides, but unfortunately we didn't find anything else.
And what's more, the evidence seems pretty conclusive that it hasn't been covered up by natural erosion or other forces. It seems to have been deliberately buried.
Deliberately buried.
If you see it on the screen, they say, it was already done by yesterday. 1967, a book was published called The Report from Iron Mountain. It was purported to be an official government report leaked by one of the participants in the research group. In that report, it was suggested that pollution of the planet be allowed to continue until it could be made into a global catastrophe, making a worldwide external threat that would bring the people of the world to the point of total acceptance of a one-world government under the United Nations. The book has been declared to be a total hoax, even though all of the recommendations for external threats have been carried out. The environmental threat was further stoked by multitudes of well-meaning green organizations, the media, and books like Earth in the Balance by Al Gore. Alternative 3 was really a documentary released by Angela Television on June 20th, 1977 in England. It was part of a science report, a conservative science program. Presented as factual and true, it was almost immediately declared a hoax by the writers and the producers as soon as public controversy erupted. Presented as a truthful documentary, using live actors instead of real people, it dealt with an international conspiracy of immense proportions. It was known by the code name Alternative 3. While the science report was in fact fictional and played by actors, was there any truth behind the concepts presented and played out by those actors? Did science reports stumble into something far more sinister in their investigations than could ever be believed? So sinister that they decided to use actors rather than real people with real names? Did they uncover one of the strangest black operations ever undertaken? Is it possible that Alternative 3, as did the report from Iron Mountain, contain far more truth than fiction? Far more fact than lies? Is Alternative 3 far more dangerous than the people of the world realize? The Alternative 3 program made the following claims. 1. The rich men of the earth, the elite, or as the Bible calls them, the Lords of the Earth, initiated a secret program of 3 alternatives to escape worldwide catastrophe brought about by environmental pollution, which had gone too far and was now totally out of control, and an overpopulation that would destroy the Earth. 2, a joint above top secret program between Russia and America established secret bases on the Moon and on Mars. 3, the so-called UFOs are actually secret government aircraft and spacecraft with capabilities far beyond that which is made public. 4, the top scientists around the world have been abducted to provide the brains to make the operation a success and to man the bases. 5, use of the UFOs as an alien cover to abduct large numbers of people in batch consignments, alter their minds by MK Ultra operations, and then use them as now compliant slave labor. 6, these bases were to be used to repopulate the Earth after the catastrophic Earth changes had taken place. Alternative 3 was to be a man-made Noah's Ark for modern man and the rich men, especially the rich men. In addition to the Moon and Mars bases, 2 other alternatives were suggested, and it is claimed later rejected, but the proofs and the facts might suggest otherwise. The alternative suggestions were: 1, Alternative 1, find a way to release the carbon dioxide buildup, which was, in some scientific opinions, the cause of global warming, which some scientists believe is now out of control and will actually destroy the Earth. This was to be done by blasting holes in the ionosphere, which is the part of the HAARP project. Another alternative method to reduce global warming was to deflect sunlight by using highly reflective particles released by special spraying equipment installed on both military and civilian airline jet aircraft, known by its code word cloverleaf. These are also known by observant people as chemtrails. 2, the implied concept to reduce the population by billions through any means possible, long a dream of the elite who consider the masses of the world as useless eaters and cannon fodder. 3, depopulate the rural areas and rewild the Earth to bring it back to a pristine condition by forcing all people to live in all-use zones or city areas, rewilding about 80% of North America. 4, set up a world government at the UN with draconian powers to enforce without mercy all directives of the rich men, known in the Bible as the Antichrist government. Alternative 2, establish secret underground facilities to house large numbers of people with interconnecting tunnels. These underground facilities would be used for top secret projects known as black operations funded by taxpayers, private funds, and part of the military-industrial complex. All 3 alternatives were based on a scientific conclusion that the world was doomed, and it was also based on Bible prophecy. All 3 alternatives are being implemented, as this documentary will prove beyond all shadow of a doubt. In the science report presentation, a scientist by the name of Gernstein was presented. There is no such scientist. However, Gernstein most likely represents a group of elite scientists and their conclusions of global warming and the coming Earth changes they suspected have already begun.
Hear them? Not something you'd expect in this country. Heat, of course.
Gerstein's theories, when he first put them forward over 20 years ago, had been almost universally dismissed. He was called an alarmist and a pessimist. Events proved him, on the contrary, to be something of an optimist. By the late 60s, the Earth was already so trapped within an envelope of its own pollution that heat from the sun and the Earth's industrial processes was having increasing difficulty in escaping. 10 years earlier than Gerstein's prediction, the notorious greenhouse effect, a thickening of the outer atmosphere due to the 8-fold increase in the carbon dioxide levels, had become a reality. As the atmosphere became more dense, extreme variations of temperature were experienced, from intense heat to equally unprecedented cold. North America suffered the worst winter on record. Rivers froze solid, and even the great Niagara Falls was halted. In many areas, a state of emergency was ordered by the newly elected President Carter. But the most frightening discovery which scientists made was that last year's unmelted snow line is the next step to a future and unavoidable ice age.
At the Huntsville, Alabama conference of 1957, my ideas were at last being taken seriously by a small group of senior physicists and government advisors. But by then, of course, it was too late. What was this with those people?
Can you tell me what happened at Huntsville?
The usual thing. The politicians come running to us as though we can reverse the course of nature. When we tell them we can't, they say, why didn't we do something earlier? When we tell them they prevented us, they start squabbling among themselves. Rabble.
Was anything achieved by the conference?
There was some discussion. Secret.
Can you tell me anything about that?
It was all very theoretical.
Well, look, I can understand your reluctance.
Look, all I'm prepared to say is there were three alternatives for discussion. The first two were crazy. We forget about them. The third alternative, maybe not so crazy. But I don't know whether anything was ever done about it.
Can you tell me what it was?
First, there was nothing we could do to cut either world population or the consumption of resources essential for survival on Earth. Alternative 3 was a much more limited option. It was an attempt to ensure that at least some of the human race survived the consequences. We were theorists, not technicians, but we realized we were talking about a kind of space travel which had only appeared in scientific fiction so far.
What, you mean go to some other planet?
I mean, get the hell off this one whilst there's still time.
102 in St. Louis, very warm and very humid air right up here.
And 104 for your high temperature into Dallas.
103 in Phoenix, 102
106 in El Dorado.
We are at a very, very warm point in our climate record.
Code red smog alert. And
the planet is changing more rapidly than anything we've seen in the past.
It's too hot to be out there doing that sort of strenuous
activity. The 90s were the warmest decade on record.
Numerous record highs. Take a look at some of these.
We're living in the hottest century on record. And some say it's only going to get hotter.
The general consensus of the scientific community is that by 2100 the temperatures will be 2 to 6 or 7 degrees Fahrenheit above what it is today.
Which means that in the next 100 years, our country may become a very different place. If the projections in a new report sponsored by Congress are correct, ocean levels will rise, threatening cities like Miami and New Orleans. Some barrier islands will disappear, and the Pacific Northwest will be warmer and wetter. In the mountains of the West, early snow melt in the spring, and so less drinking water. The Midwest, in a drought now, will be green and plentiful. Trees will grow faster. Farms will yield more crops. The Great Lakes may shrink because of evaporation. What on earth is going on?
Global warming. That means the average surface temperature of our entire planet is going up. If reports from Congress are right, global warming will change our country. But how do we know our global temperature is rising? Can we trust the measurements? Are the projections accurate? And most controversially of all, do we really know if man is to blame? I'm Nick Walker. For the next hour, the Weather Channel will bring you the scientific facts about which there is virtually universal consensus. Join us as we take you inside the state-of-the-art science of global warming to find out more about our hot planet.
Global warming is not the only problem that the rich men are concerned about. Volcanic activity was also beginning to rise. The Bible is full of warnings of increased volcanic activity, beginning first along the infamous Ring of Fire, which circles the Pacific Ocean, but it would also increase in other areas around the world. In fact, volcanic activity becomes so intense in both America and Europe, according to prophecy, that the skies darken to the point that the moon becomes blood red and the sun is just barely peeking through the dusty atmosphere. Mount St. Helens was a warning shot sent across the bow of America's ship, sent by the Lord to wake the people up, but no one paid any attention, so more activity like Mount St. Helens will begin to appear, first along the Californian, Oregon, and Washington coasts, and then it will move probably inland, for there is a very real possibility of Yellowstone and areas like it, and in Idaho to come back to life. Mary Summer Rain, in her book Phoenix Rising, claims that the Indian shaman Lady No Eyes predicts massive volcanic activity all over America and the world, and that volcanoes would begin to appear in areas where they had never been seen before. Eventually, huge volcanic explosions will decimate all that is in their path, and experts have repeatedly warned that the population influx in and around volcanic areas is a sure recipe for total disaster. As the population increases in density in and around these volcanic areas, so too do the problems of mass evacuation should an eruption occur with little or no warning. And although we are learning more and more about them, there is little evidence to suggest that volcanologists can accurately predict an eruption. Many of them come with virtually little or no warning. And as we show you now the Ring of Fire, you can see how it goes all the way up through the Orient, comes across to Alaska, comes down through to the west coast of the United States, all of the volcanic activity along the Cascades, and then it comes down through South America and bends around through back again to the Orient. And that's not the only problem. Volcanoes were not the only worry that the rich men had. They knew that as global warming increased, more and more radical weather would occur, bringing with it severe damages that would eventually bankrupt the world's nations and their insurance companies. It could and eventually would destroy the entire world economic system. They were very concerned about it. Hurricanes, of course, are the most powerful storms of nature, and they will become larger and stronger as the world's climate begins to change and becomes much more unpredictable in its weather patterns. Jet streams will alter their courses, ocean currents will change, and entire new climatic conditions will emerge. As we enter into this phase, more and more flooding and billions of dollars in damages will result. Scientists have warned that because of population increases along the East Coast, the tremendous loss of life can be expected when the superstorms begin to hit the United States. Hurricane ratings will have to undergo revamping as the current 1 through 5 system fails to register the huge storms that are now facing us. The vast majority of people along the eastern seaboard will refuse to vacate, even under emergency orders, until the very last minute because of previous false warnings, resulting in massive traffic jams along the coastal interstate escape routes. Unheard of storm surges will result in massive death and massive flooding. Flooding from these massive storms, such as Tropical Storm Allison, will become more and more commonplace, with flash flooding becoming a primary danger throughout the United States. The 1993 flood of the Mississippi River was but a foretaste of what lies ahead as weather and climate changes. We also have tornadoes that will increase, and I firmly predict that there will be a new scale of tornadoes. Tornadoes reaching many miles across will decimate areas in Tornado Alley and in very rare places. Another possibility, of course, is asteroid and comet impact possibilities, as recorded in occult prophecy in the Bible. The book of Revelation speaks about huge comets or asteroids hitting both the Atlantic Ocean and on land, decimating everything in its path. This is what lies ahead, and this is why the rich men chose to leave planet Earth. and make areas of escape for themselves by the three alternatives. The damage of one major impact would be catastrophic to the world and to the world systems. And Bible prophecy predicts at least 2, if not more, impacts of major trouble. Cycles of world destruction, of course, are recorded in ancient history, so devastating that civilization had to begin all over again. Ancient records are full of such references, but no one paid any attention to them until the latter part of the 20th century. But by then, the rich men of the earth figured it was just too late, and they had to develop ways of escaping, hence 3 alternatives. According to Plato, when Solon visited Egypt, the priest told him that the earth does indeed go through these periodic destructions, with periods of relative calm in between the catastrophes. All of our modern science has been in between these periods of catastrophe. There has been, and there will be again, many destructions of mankind arising out of many causes. Now, this has been in the form of myth, but it really signifies a declination of the bodies moving around the earth and in the heavens. That was a priest speaking to Solon, according to Plato, in his books and writings. Isn't that interesting? A form of myth, but it wasn't myth. And a great conflagration of things upon the earth occurring at long intervals of time. Tremendous upheavals. Luke 21:25 through 26. And there shall be attesting miracles, signs in the realm of the sun and the moon and the stars. That's the declination of the heavenly bodies. And upon the earth, national distress in the midst of perplexity, sea and billows or waves roaring, men fainting because of fear and expectation of the things that are coming upon the Roman Empire, which is, of course, the world. For the natural powers that regulate the heavenly bodies shall be disorganized, so says the Worst New Testament translation. Mr. Kenneth E. Worst was a Greek scholar, well-known Greek scholar. That was his interpretation of it. There will be strange events in the skies, warnings, evil omens and portents in the sun, moon, and stars. And down here on earth, the nations will be in turmoil, perplexed by the roaring seas and the strange tides. The courage of many people will falter because of the fearful fate they see coming upon the earth, for the stability of the very heavens shall be broken up. So says the Living Bible. The sun will suddenly start shining at night, and the moon in the daytime, a reversal of night and day because the heavenly bodies have become disorganized. The movement of the stars will be changed. The earth will break open in many places and begin spouting out flames. Volcanoes all over. Fresh water will become salty. You'll find that in the second book of Esdras, 2 Esdras. The moon shall change its laws and not be seen in its proper period, 1 Enoch 79:6. Great fear and trembling shall seize them, even to the ends of the earth. The lofty mountains shall be troubled, and the exalted hills depressed, melting like a honeycomb in the flame. The earth shall be emerged, and all things which are in it perish. 1 Enoch 1:6. So the Bible, the ancient books, the occult all agree. We are headed into major earth changes. Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down. It's a literal polar shift. And scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. Isaiah 24:1. In other words, when he says he's going to turn the world upside down, the North Pole becomes the South Pole. It literally flips. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage. Isaiah 24:19 through 20. The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled. Isaiah 24:3. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. Isaiah 24:4. Utter destruction, according to the Old Testament. The curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. Isaiah 24:6. Utter destruction. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. Isaiah 13:13. Now the rich men know how to read their Bibles, and they have actually ordered major Bible studies about it. There are 5 major factors that alter the Earth's climate and threaten the existence of man. 1. Solar instability due to various cycles. 2. Volcanic eruptions on land and under the sea. 3. Comet and asteroid hits. 4. Land risings and sinkings. And 5. Literal magnetic pole shifts, which lead to a literal polar shift. In other words, the magnetic pole goes first, and then the literal poles go second. The rich men of the earth were well aware that major changes were coming, and they decided to attempt to avoid them if at all possible. Hence, they came up with the 3 alternatives after scientific study. Do we have any proof, though, either direct or indirect, that would substantiate that the highest levels of government already know that major Earth changes are coming? Yes, we do. In fact, there is a lot of proof to it. This is a paper, Global Warming and Ice Ages, Prospects for Physics-Based Modulation of Global Change, by Edward Teller, L. Wood, and R. Hyde. And it was prepared for submittal at the 22nd International Seminar on Planetary Emergencies, and it was presented in Italy on August 15th, 1997, written predominantly by the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Interesting paper that very few people have seen. We're going to get back to that when we get into chemtrails. Anyway, written by Edward Teller and Lowell Wood of the Hoover Institution, Stanford University, Stanford, California, and Roderick Hyde, University of California, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. They're well aware of what's going on. Great Lakes levels drop, global warming to blame. Harrison Township, Michigan, Great Lake levels could fall rapidly by another 3 feet during the next 30 years as the Earth's temperature rises. Michigan's waters are in retreat, of course, and have been for some time. Global warming linked to melting ice cap. A study of melting ice caps has shown that global warming is increasing and making rising sea levels and flooding in coastal communities. A team of international scientists said on Wednesday, Global Warming, a Danger to the State, written by the Arizona Republic. Global warming threatens Arizona with dangerous side effects, including more cases of deadly hantavirus, fewer native fish, and failing cotton yields. Environmentalists and scientists contend. Projected temperature rises of 3 to 5 degrees. The Alps may crumble as permafrost melts. Permafrost that holds some of Europe's highest mountain ranges together is melting, threatening to deluge ski resorts and alpine settlements with lethal mudslides and rock falls, a conference heard yesterday. The head of a team of scientists who have been monitoring the melting of the permafrost in Europe's alpine regions of the European Union. See, this is at the highest levels of government. Increase in greenhouse gases seen from space. London, according to Reuters, scientists dispelled any lingering doubts about the increase of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere Wednesday with new evidence from satellites orbiting the Earth. Till now, researchers have depended upon ground-based measurements and theoretical models. Now they see they got the proof. According to them, they have the proof. The question is what is causing greenhouse gases? There's a lot of argument among the scientific community as to what is really going on when it comes to greenhouse gases, and whether it's human activity or whether it's from solar activity and volcanic activity. Report global warming disasters for Europe in the next 100 years. Parts of Europe will be lost to the sea, and half of the continent's mountain glaciers and snowcaps will vanish in the next century as the effects of man-made pollution and global warming take effect. World disasters seen as global warming outcome. Massive flooding, disease, drought could hit rich and poor countries around the world over the coming decades if global warming is not halted, an authoritative UN scientific team warned Monday. Stratosphere in persistent warming trend. Stratosphere above the northern hemisphere has seen much rising in temperature. In January, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change issued a new report on global warming, stating that the Earth's average temperature could rise by as much as 10.4 degrees over the next 100 years, which is 60% higher than the same group predicted just 6 years ago. Now, is all of this true? Some of it probably is. Some of it is hype because there's an agenda behind all of this. You'll find that agenda in Iron Mountain. Ancient microbe threat in global warming. Gordon Michael Scallion, in his Earth Changes report, said that government scientists know that major Earth changes are coming, but they remain silent so as not to panic the people or cause major economic problems in the world's economic systems. In other words, they were afraid, actually, of an economic collapse if the actual truth was broadcast by government agencies to the world. And then we have the proof, of course, of the Earth Summit Agenda 21, the United Nations Program of Action from Rio. And we have a special U.S. Department of Energy report called the Climate Canary Report. And very, very interesting what they have to say about it. And all of this dovetails together. Here's the warning. We, the undersigned, senior members of the world's scientific community, hereby warn all humanity, we the undersigned, senior members of the world's scientific community, this is the elite, hereby warn all of humanity of what lies ahead. A great change in our stewardship of Earth and life upon it is required if vast human misery is to be avoided and our global home on this planet is not to be irretrievably mutilated. This is a government report right out of the Department of Energy. Much of the damage is irreversible. Much of the damage is irreversible on a scale of centuries or permanent. Other processes appear to pose additional threats. Increasing levels of gases in the atmosphere from human activities, including carbon dioxide released from fossil fuel burning and from deforestation, may alter climate on a global scale. Now, these are critical statements because they're coming from the elite group. Scientific American, global warming, the hidden health risk. That's interesting that Iron Mountain said that something like this was coming and it would be brought up to a world crisis. Project Impact from the FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. The past 10 years, the Federal Emergency Management Agency has spent $20 billion to help communities repair and rebuild after natural disasters. They want to try and prevent that. The increasing number and severity of natural disasters over the past decade demands that actions be taken to reduce the threat that hurricanes, tornadoes, severe storms, flood, and fires impose upon the nation's economy and the safety of its citizens. Notice they have the economy and money ahead of the safety of its citizens in the way they wrote it. Interesting. The Federal Emergency Management Agency and the U.S. Geological Survey today signed a memorandum of understanding, and They're getting in with, it's kind of interesting because they're with the USGS, which has offshoots, of course, in earthquake prediction. They're very, very aware of increasing earthquake disasters. Very, very aware of it. Promotes federal efforts to improve disaster recovery and mitigation in communities throughout the United States. It's not a bad idea. It's not. We're not faulting the government for attempting to do this. There's another side to FEMA that most people don't know about. Since its inception in 1997, nearly 250 communities and 2,500 business partners have embraced Project Impact. Previous community projects have included creating disaster resistance strategies, revising local building and land use codes, and passing bond issues to construct prevention measures that will impact the entire community. It's very, very interesting. Where a lot of these impact began were on the coastal regions. And now we have another interesting thing. NASA joins FEMA's Project Impact effort. FEMA and the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, today signed an agreement under which FEMA will use NASA's science, technology, and remote sensing research in emergency management and disaster prevention activities. Why would they be doing all of this unless they know something is in the works? As Gordon Michael Scallion claimed, scientists know about that. If NASA has joined FEMA activities, then FEMA must be well aware of asteroid or comet impacts upon Earth with the resultant destruction it could bring. They must also be aware of the extreme danger from recent changes in our sun, in solar cycle 23 at its apex and cycle 24 in 2012.
The sun has its minimum activity and maximum activity. We know about that from sunspots. But also we know that the magnetic field of the sun reverses every 11 years. And it is at the time of reversal that the loops appear to be most active. And therefore, we have the largest number of storms.
Flipping magnetic poles from north to south is like the whole star turning itself inside out.
When new magnetic field comes up from below the surface of the sun, it seems to trigger the release of energy from these loops, which then is emitted into space.
It's magnetic energy that kicks cosmic storms off the sun's surface. And the storm will take with it a tremendous load of magnetism into space. Scientists now understand that the magnetic polarity of the storm is the single most critical factor to Earth. Opposite polarity equals disaster. If the storm points south, it collides with the Earth's own north-pointing field with tremendous force. Two magnetic fields colliding create an intense DC electric current. And it's this current that overloads power lines. In 1989, Hydro-Quebec experienced the full fury of an opposite polarity cosmic storm at solar maximum. From the far northern La Grande complex, 5 power lines stretching over 700 miles southward acted as lightning rods for cosmic current. In the year 2000, the most dangerous cosmic storms will attack again.
On the night of February 23, 1987, at the Las Campanas Observatory in southern Chile, Ian Shelton photographed the large Magellanic Cloud. As he developed his plates, he saw a bright object that was not on the previous plates. He thought it was only a flaw, but he walked outside to check it. In the sky, he saw a star he had never seen before. An object appearing so suddenly, he knew must be a supernova.
Supernovae that are visible to the naked eye are rather rare. I think only 3 outside the present one have been seen in the last millennium. There was the Crab supernova, now known as the Crab Nebula, which was in 1054 and was even visible during the daylight.
SN 1987A reached a magnitude of 2.9, which is easily bright enough to be seen at night. It once was a faint star called Sandulic -69202, a blue supergiant, about 15 times the mass of our sun.
Well, one of the most important things that a supernova does do is to create new elements. It's a long-standing theory, and I believe this supernova and some other observations have confirmed it, that all of the heavier elements, things heavier than helium, have been produced as a byproduct of stellar evolution, with supernovae playing the dominant role. Now, how does this happen? Well, a star is always subject to its own gravity. So when it has no hydrogen to burn, gravity is going to win for a while, and the core of the star is going to contract and get hotter. And then it will ignite the next fuel that it has to burn, which is helium. It burns helium to carbon and oxygen, and it'll burn some of the carbon into neon and magnesium. And after that, it'll burn oxygen into silicon, eventually silicon into iron in the center of the star, about 1.5 solar masses. Now, it's a quirk of nuclear structure that when you've produced iron, you can't get any more energy out of nuclear fusion reactions. So the core becomes unstable at that point. Gravity is still there all the time trying to pull it down. And now with no fuel left to run on, the core collapses.
Not collapse any further. At this so-called point of maximum scrunch, the core bounces back and blows the rest of the star out into space with an explosion energy over 10 times the lifetime output of our sun. This explosion is a supernova.
The sun will not supernova, but it will become unstable, and the signs are already here, been reported. Isaiah 30:26, moreover, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold, as the light of 7 days, in the day that the Lord bindeth up the breach of his people, and healeth the stroke of their wound. In other words, the sun mini-novas, gives off 7 times more light than it does now, and the moon becomes as bright as the sun. And the 4th angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which had power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. Revelation 16:8-9. So these 2 verses from the Old and the New Testament confirm each other. A mini-nova is on the way. The rich men of the earth know how to read. They have studied all the ancient records, have teams of scientists investigating these things, and have studied intently Bible and occultic prophecy. Their conclusion? The earth is headed for disaster. They needed a way to escape. I don't believe you can understand Alternative 3 unless you understand Bible prophecy. I don't think you can understand the UFO enigma unless you understand biblical prophecy. The Bible is the only book in the entire world that paints a portrait of exactly what's happening in our world today. God says his prophets are 100% accurate. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a quick look at Bible prophecy on the fast track. I guess you could say. Up here we have Satan and his fallen angels and demons that are at the top of the actual pyramid. A lot of people think that's the Illuminati, and it is, but it's controlled by Satan, the fallen angels, and his demons, according to the scriptures. Underneath that, we have a group of what the Bible calls deceived people, very deceived, who have not the slightest idea of what their destination is. Their destination is eternal ruin. They are actually the dupes of Satan, and they have gotten themselves involved in the spirit of mammon. The Bible says that the rich men are virtually insane with the spirit of mammon, power of money, power, greed, etc., etc. Anyway, the Bible talks about the rich men of the earth, also calls them the lords of the earth. They are the international bankers, the merchants of Babylon, and the kings and the rulers. They are controlled by the spirit of mammon, and they set up secret societies. This is what comprises the vast majority of people within your secret societies. There's an inner core group. A lot of your secret societies are filled with people that really have no idea what's really going on. But there is an inner core group that does know what's going on. They are controlled by Satan, fallen angels, and demons. Now, what they have done, actually, in its simplest form, is they have declared a jihad, a holy war, against God and Jesus Christ. You'll find that in Psalm 2. They have a symbol. Here's your pyramid and the all-seeing eye that is explained in the scriptures. Their number is 666, and you'll find that at the bottom of the pyramid. And this, according to the Bible, is the curse that covers the whole earth. It goes forth and covers the entire earth. That's the short form of the overall picture. Now, we're going to get into this a little more because it's very, very important that you at least have a foundational thing. And for those of you who know about this, it's good for refreshing your mind, because this is very important to Alternative 3. And it's the people behind Alternative 3 are the rich men. They are the lords of the earth, the bankers, the merchants. And the top, very top few of what is known as the Illuminati, the Bilderbergers, the Council on Foreign Relations, and that group. Daniel the prophet had a very strange dream. You'll find it in Daniel chapter 7. And it tells us exactly what is going on in the modern day world. And it starts basically with the rise of England. It further proves and shows you how the jihad of the secret societies is working in order to produce their false messiah. Daniel's prophecies deal basically in the political movements of mankind, which are in turn controlled by the secret societies and money. All right? It's a jihad for world domination, basically. The first beast that Daniel sees rise up in his dream vision is that of a lion, and it had eagle's wings on the top of it. The lion represents England. The symbol of England is that of a lion. All right? It represents England and Cecil Rhodes, who wants to set up basically an English empire controlled by England. They're doing it through the secret society, but the predominant secret society is, of course, Scottish Rite Freemasonry. This represents the lion is England, therefore. Okay, now, the eagle's wings are very, very important. They represent the United States of America, who is Babylon. Now, what happens is that England and America, according to Jeremiah the prophet, are actually tied together. England is the mother, Babylon is the daughter. England through the United Nations and Scottish Rite Masonry, which has its headquarters in the United States and the United Nations, you see. This is how they're tied together. Forges the New World Order. But they are also in league with the bear. Now, the bear was the second beast to rise up in the dream of Daniel, and it represents Russia, the Soviet bear, or the Russian bear, known throughout the world as the bear. Now, there are 3 ribs in the mouth of this bear, very, very important. The ribs represent the 3 primary founders. Lenin, Marx, and Engels are the founders of Illuminism, communism, done through, of course, the secret societies. But they're the ones who actually wrote the manuals and told the bear actually what to do, which was to go forth and devour much flesh. Now, after the rise of the Soviet Union, along comes another beast, the third beast of Daniel, and it's a leopard. It has 4 wings of a fowl, and it has 4 heads on it. Actually, it represents Nazi Germany, the New Age conspiracy experiment. And Nazi Germany plays a very, very important role in the future of things to come. Very, very important role. Nazi Germany will be resurrected in the form of a global police state. It'll be done through the 4th beast. The 4th beast is the United Nations. Now, the 4th beast in Daniel's vision, he said, was very, very strange. Wasn't like the other beast powers. It was different, totally different. He said it was diverse from all the other beasts that stood in its presence. Well, the other beasts that stood in its presence are England, America, Russia, and Germany. And by extension, of course, the modern Germany. And by extension of that, the EC. All right, now the 4th beast is in fact the United Nations. It's a treaty organization. Daniel says that it absorbs the constitutions and the sovereignties of these other beast powers before it. America, Canada, Australia, England, the EC, Germany, and Russia. The United Nations rises up and absorbs the constitutions and the sovereignties, and it ends up ruling these countries. Daniel says that the beast prolonged their lives for a season and a time, but this 4th beast runs them. The 4th beast is very, very diverse, and it has 1 head on it, but it has an interesting transformation takes place in this beast, which we find in the book of Revelation. You see, you can unlock the Old Testament with the book of Revelation. Very, very important, this entire scenario here. All right, now the question is, how did they do it? Well, they do it through secret, black operations, unacknowledged, plausible denial. You tell the media about manipulation, they laugh at you. You talk about conspiracy theory, they laugh at you. The people of the world laugh at you if you mention there might be a conspiracy. It doesn't matter that God said there was a conspiracy. It doesn't matter that the Bible repeatedly says there is a conspiracy and even identifies who they are. The rich men of the earth, the kings and the rulers, the merchants of Babylon, the international bankers. All right? Now the plan is to replace Christ with Antichrist. That's the whole thing. It's a jihad. It is designed to replace Jesus Christ with their false Messiah. Now they're going to have to figure out a way to do that. Now this whole thing is unseen, but it's felt. And what it is mass psychological warfare via media takeover and control. And through systematic propaganda, they're able to convince the masses that they have the way and nobody else does. First thing we're going to look at here, technological control. one of the methods that the elite is doing to do this. Project Bluebeam is at the top of this thing, because ultimately Project Bluebeam will be used to bring in the false messiah. Alternative energy. They're secretly working in alternative energy situations. That would be your anti-gravitational devices, electromagnetism, all light manipulation, all sorts of things we probably can't even imagine. Then we have HAARP, which is probably the ultimate control factor. They're denying, of course, all this, and the people that work it probably would deny it because they don't know what all this is going to be used for. And then we have advanced Tesla technology that they're working on, MK Ultra and other types of mind control. And the Bible calls the technology that they develop and then suddenly spring on the world as lying signs and wonders. And in the book of Revelation it says, who can make war with the beast? Well, the answer is nobody can make war with the beast, because it has the technology, and the technology is used for total people control. The other aspect of control is economic control. Silent weapons for quiet wars is the agenda for that. Under it comes total surveillance, data collection. They collect the data through computers, through your credit card purchases, through bank records. All of that is being collected.